Welcome to an all-new episode of Get Lit with Lianna, the podcast. Join me as I sit down with a new guest author in each episode to discuss their books, careers, and everything in between. Today, I'm sitting down with author Allison Ashley, who wrote the new romance book, Would You Rather, out everywhere today. Allison wrote two other books, Perfect Distraction and Home Sweet Mess. And when I first found Perfect Distraction like 2.5 years ago, she quickly became one of my favorite romance writers. And I had to just slide into her DMs and let her know. And since then, she's truly been such an incredible friend to me, sharing with me advanced versions of her books, telling me ideas, sharing with me playlists she uses to write her characters. And given the fact that she's a pharmacist in her regular life, she's always able to answer all of my medical questions, which is also just such a plus. But this book is easily one of my favorite books of the year. Everyone that reads it will absolutely adore it, just as I have. So without further ado, my conversation with my friend, the incredible author, Allison Ashley, starts right now. Welcome, Allison, to the podcast. This is just the best podcast episode ever, because not only are you obviously one of my friggin' all-time favorite romance writers, but you're also one of my just favorite people in general.
I love this. No, I've been looking forward to this because I feel like we text and chat and DM and everything. But the last time I think we've talked like this was on an Instagram live,
literally a year and a half ago. Yeah. Crazy. Well, it was right after Home Sweet Mess came out was when we did that live.
Yeah.
That live was kind of the spark, I guess, that made me realize I kind of want to do this podcast, because we had done that live and I was I want to keep doing more of them, but how do I do it that it reaches even more people than just the people that follow my Instagram? So that was kind of the thing that put the little bug in my head that I was maybe I should do this in a different, bigger scope. So kind of kudos to you.
Good at it. You just the way that you kind of ask questions and think about the books and I don't know. You're very kind of natural to chat with. So I think it's great.
Yeah, I appreciate it. But you were also so nice when I told you back in December when I was I think I'm going to do this. You were immediately, yes, you have to. And I was and you're my first confirmed. I didn't even ask you. I was you're my first confirmed guest. And you were oh, yay.
No, I was how can I invite myself on without being rude?
What do you mean? Are you kidding? When I first decided I was doing this podcast, I made a list of authors, and I talk about this often, a list of authors that I need to get on the show. And you were the first one on the list and the first one that I wrote confirmed. I didn't even ask you. I was even if she says no, I'm going to make her do it. So it's fine. But I'm so happy.
Clearly, I wanted to.
No. I'm so happy you're here. So before we get into, obviously, Would You Rather, which we need to just address first, the elephant in the room, that I have a very special cover of this book. Yeah.
Yes.
So the book got a little bit of a makeover. Yes, so do you have the new cover physical with you yet, or no, only the original?
I am expecting it within the week. My box of kind of author copies of the new one. So I have not seen the new one full.
Okay.
Yet.
Okay.
But I know, how lucky am I that I got to kind of have two covers. It does sort of feel like this one's a
collector's item. Yeah, collector's item. I'm so excited. And especially being such a massive fan of yours, I'm I need all of the rare things I can get. So I love it. But before we get into the book, we need to tell everybody well, I need to tell everybody, I guess, how I came to you and how this whole thing started. So I started my Bookstagram in December of 2020, and I legit think Perfect Distraction was one of the first books I read after starting that page, because I'd been reading before, obviously, starting the page, but as a poster, a frequent Instagram Bookstagrammer, I hadn't really read anything yet. And I was on Goodreads, and I don't know what I was searching, what type of tropes I was looking at, or whose page I was looking at, but Perfect Distraction came up as a suggestion for me. And I was what is this? And I read the synopsis and I was cancer. Do I want to? I don't know if I can mentally. And somebody's review was they thank God for that person, because the way that they wrote the review was essentially yes, it deals with cancer, but it's not what you think about when you think of a cancer story. Read it. And I was okay, fine. If I need my heart broken a little, fine. And as you know,
honest, you don't mind your heart being broken sometimes.
Exactly.
You read.
Exactly. There's no secrets here. But I was okay, fine. And I seriously read it in like a day, like no joke. Like I think I read it in 2 sittings, like in a day, and I was obsessed. And then I was on my Bookstagram and I was like, I have to message you. And I messaged you. And at the time you were posting a lot of like fan fiction, like people were not fan fiction, fan art. People were making like drawings.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, in my head, I was like, oh my God, she's like a very, very gigantic author. Like everyone knows what this book is. People are making art. And then after like literally an initial conversation, you like were very blunt with me being like, yeah, like I self-published, like it's my book. Like it's not, a lot of people don't know it. Like, how did you find it? Like, and that was shocking to me because I had not read any books. I didn't even know when I was reading Perfect Distraction that like you would publish it. Like at that time, I did not know that that was even a thing. Like, I just assumed like, oh yeah, it's for sure with Penguin or Berkeley or Random or Simon & Schuster. Like, so that was an insane experience on its own for me. But that was the beginning of our friendship because then I just became obsessed with you. And I was like, so what are you doing next? And you were like, you're not going to believe it, but I have a new book coming out and it's about Jenny and Logan. And I was like, what? So that's like my intro to how I met you and how I love you. And like the stars just aligned for me to find Perfect Distraction in that way. But I feel like now everyone that knows me knows that you're like my favorite author. And I just add Perfect Distraction and Home Sweet Mess. And now Would You Rather to literally everything I can, any roundup, any my favorite books, my like whatever. I'm like, read this. Like,
well, but I can't even tell you how important that is for author. Like it is so hard to become known, if you will. And I don't know if that's the right way to say that, but so many authors are just writing these books like because we love them and we want people to read them. But it's this whole like, how do we find the readers that would love these characters as much as we do?
Right.
And it's unless you write off land with like this huge big publisher, or if you just go viral on TikTok or something, it's kind of just very organic. Like here and there, you just find somebody that you connect with. And here I was like, oh my gosh, like I got a DM from somebody who loved my book.
So crazy.
And any of those just made my day, and they still do.
I'm sure.
And I love that Goodreads brought us together.
Yeah, the algorithm. It's so random. But so for everybody that doesn't know, you're not only an author, you have an insane regular, I don't know how you want to say it.
Job. Sure. Yeah.
Okay, but your job's like more than I think just like a day job. Like tell everybody what you do in your regular life when you're not writing romance books.
Yeah. So I am a board certified oncology pharmacist, which it's totally normal for a lot of folk to say, what is that? So
I feel like I didn't know what that was when you first told me. I was like, can you explain?
Oh, well, it's unless you've worked with a clinical pharmacist, and that's kind of the official term, unless you've had one like as part of your care team, or maybe you know one, there's really no reason why you would. Most people, when they think of pharmacists, they think of like, oh, well, like my corner drugstore, the person who gives me my pills in a bottle or whatever, which there's a lot of those and that's incredibly important. But it's an option after pharmacy school to go do residency, kind of like a physician to specialize. And so I did a couple of extra years after pharmacy school to specialize in oncology. And so actually my job is what Lauren does in my first book, Perfect Distraction, in my debut, where I, see patients with the physicians who have a cancer diagnosis, talk to them about their chemo, really manage a lot of their supportive meds. So really, watch their nausea, watch their pain, kind of everything cancer treatment related is so medication heavy, that a pharmacist is really important to be on that team. And we just work with the physician. So that's kind of, and like you said, Perfect Distraction, I certainly in no way ever wanted to like lighten what cancer is or what it's like to go through, because it is such a heavy thing to deal with. And I've seen, the awful side of it, but I also in that job, I've seen how it can be a hopeful and a joyful thing sometimes. And that's the side I kind of wanted to portray in that book. So yeah.
Insane. Yeah. So all while being a pharmacist, like an oncology pharmacist, you were also a romance writer. So like how did you even like make that transition, or how did you even realize like, hey, I'm going to start writing love stories? Like, wow, how did that start?
I've always been a big reader, and I actually vividly remember in my first year pharmacy residency, and residencies are intense, just like, like on Grey's Anatomy, when you see them all in their, like they're in their residency, and that's when it's crazy. Pharmacy is the same way. And I was living apart from my family for that year. I vividly remember being so into romance books in my little bit of spare time that year. So I was working so hard doing my residency, and I would just, anytime I wasn't dealing with that, I was just tearing through romance novels. And then I kind of, when I got out, finished residency and got into my job, I kind of, slowed down on the reading for a while. But when you're in a job like oncology, it can be emotionally draining. And I think that at some point I kind of just wanted to find something when I would come home from having a rough day, at work, or just really kind of being emotionally spent. I kind of wanted to go away into this world where I knew I could kind of be somewhere happy and kind of joyful. And I know not the full extent of romance novels aren't all happy, joyful, but I knew it would end that way. That's why, I'm so obsessed with Same. It's not in happy. It's not romance. I am a purist.
You literally will die on that hill, and we will fight about that forever and ever.
Yep. Yeah. But that's why is I just, sometimes things end happy in my job and sometimes they don't. And I just kind of wanted to have a safe place where I knew that that's what was guaranteed. And so I don't know. I don't even know how I just started writing one someday. But when I did, and I've written 3 that will never see the light of day. So
except I've seen like chapters from them.
Oh, well, they'll never actually be published. I'm sure they're crap, but
they're not.
Perfect Distraction was my 4th book that I wrote, but I kind of just started writing. And through the process, I was like, wow, this is really fun. I really enjoy this. And so writing somebody with my job wasn't even the first one I wrote, but that one kind of came about when I was at work one day. And I was like, what would it feel like to for me to be going in and teaching a patient and it be like a young, attractive man who I am attracted to? What would that be like? And that's kind of what spawned
Perfect Distraction, which is such it's such a freaking amazing book. But when you were writing Perfect Distraction, the first go of it, did you ever think I want to get this traditionally published? When did you decide okay, no, I have to do this on my own? And why did you decide you had to do it on your own?
Well, so Perfect Distraction it's published by Untitled. So that one, Mess is the only self-published one. But Untitled is kind of a smaller press. It's romance only and it's digital. They've kind of started doing some in stores, but at the time it was almost all digital. So that one actually was, I guess you could say, traditionally published, but not by a big 5.
Okay.
And so Home Sweet Mess was my foray into self-publishing.
Okay. And now this one is being published by Mira.
Right.
So you've kind of had a different trajectory where you were published, then you decided to do it yourself, and then you were back in publishing. So, but first back to Perfect Distraction, how did you connect with Entangled? How did that even happen?
Just through an agent. I mean, so I had an initial agent and she actually knew one of the editors and they kind of, when an agent when you sign with an agent and they want to sell a book, they kind of send out, it's almost like they start querying process on your behalf. It's kind of an author queries agents. And then when the agent, says, oh yeah, I love this, I really want to help get this out in the world, then they almost to some degree start querying editors.
You.
And so, it was kind of, so my agent at the time,
helped you get it. And then with Home Sweet Mess, what made you decide you wanted to do this on your own? I know we've had this conversation where you were just I just want to have the full control, but what was that driving force? Why that decision then?
I kind of just, pharmacists are very type A. Listen, I'm sorry. I like things a certain way, and so it was kind of a hard thing to decide because I have a very, I don't know if demanding is the right word, but I mean, I do have a job during the day that takes a lot of focus. And I also have 2 young kids. And so the idea of publishing with a publisher where they do a lot of that kind of work for you is key. And really, I was like that. I don't know if I have the time to do this on my own.
Right.
But after having done it through a publisher, I really love that process. But I kind of thought to myself, there were some pieces that do naturally go out of your control. If you publish with another, I don't know if a lot of listeners know, the author doesn't pick the cover, for example. A lot of times we kind of get to suggest things, or, if something is horrible, we can maybe veto it, but really it's out of our hands because, the publishers and the marketing folks, they're kind of focused on what's selling right now and that kind of stuff, which totally makes sense. We want to sell the book.
Right.
But I kind of thought to myself, some of that giving up the creative control was tough just because I am very, I want to do this myself and I want to do it this way. Right. But I just decided to try it and see what it was like. I figured, why not see? And, there were, I feel like both sides, there's good and bad.
Right. But ultimately, you decided for this one now you were going to go back to a traditional publishing route and Would You Rather's with Mira, which is so exciting. But Perfect Distraction and Home Sweet Mess are kind of in the same story world without giving too much away. And Would You Rather starts a whole new group of people. So was that kind of hard for you to be like, okay, like Lauren, Andrew, Jenny, Logan, like now you are no longer in my head. And now we're going to start talking about Mia, Noah, Graham, Claire. Like we're going to move over to the new peeps.
You know, it wasn't really, because I think when I was writing Perfect Distraction, Logan and Jenny were so like, they really just stood out so much while I was writing that one that I was like, well, clearly they are clamoring for their own story. Like it almost got out of my control.
Yeah.
But I was like,
which is so funny because my sister Rach, as you know, just read both Perfect Distraction and Home Sweet Mess. And I didn't say anything to her about either of them. And when she was reading Perfect Distraction, she made a comment about Jenny or something. And I was like, you know, that's like what Home Sweet Mess is about. And she was like, wait, what? And she went and read the back and she was like, oh my God. And she was freaking out. She couldn't believe it. And I guess even as a reader, like she picked up on it right away that like they were like clawing their way out of there. Like, give us our own book. Like we need our own story.
It feels so out of my control. Like that's what when I'm writing something, sometimes these side characters, they really take on a life of their own. And I'm like, calm down. I'll get to you in a minute, you know?
So true.
But so it was that way. But then I feel like when both of those were done, it felt complete for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if the readers feel that way, but for me, it felt just like, okay, like that, the kind of, I know a lot of people have asked for Emma. But otherwise it just in my kind of, it just kind of felt
that it was done. Yeah.
So it wasn't really hard for me. And really Mia and Noah had been festering and percolating in my head. Sorry, festering is kind of a gross word. That's my sign.
No, I think it's a good word, honestly.
For so long. I had thought about this story for probably 6 months before I sat down to write it. So they needed to come out. It was their turn.
Okay. So we need to get into this. We need to get into Would You Rather, but before we do, there's something really unique about your outlining process that makes me love you. And like what you do is so unique. And is the fact that you always have a playlist for everything you're writing. And like, you've made me playlists before for different things. Like when I'm scared to go to the doctor, there's a playlist that exists, like Lianna's Doctor Calming Pot playlist. Like the best thing ever. But the way that you use music to like outline your books and just like think of scenes in them, and you make those like aesthetic reels and you send them to me, you're like, this is trash, but what do you think? I'm like, no, you friggin' nailed it. Like you just use the best music all the time. Like how do the songs come to your head, and like how important does that play in the outlining of these stories?
Oh, it is so important for me. Music has always been a huge, like I was one of those like high school and college life, you know, kids that would just totally sit there and like, if I was in my feelings, I would totally go all emo and angsty and just like play this song on repeat and just cry. And
Same.
You know,
Same.
Yeah. I just like, I think about in college, I would listen to that 9-minute something corporate song, Constantine, like
dying
over and over. And it was just, you know, I play the piano. So I like found the music and learned how to play. I mean, just anyway, music has always been a big, and just for me, music really can garner such emotion, just not only the melody. And then if the lyrics, you know, so well, before I wrote, that has been a big, you know, part of my life. Just music is huge. I love going to concerts. And so when I started writing, I feel like I started using the songs to really kind of connect with different scenes for the different kind of emotional value that would help me when I write it, because it really gets me into a certain headspace. Right. And so I just always, I will spend days, weeks curating a playlist before I even write a book, just with kind of, and I'm very much a pantser, but kind of general themes that I know are maybe going to come through the book. And then I'll kind of tweak it as I go. Right. But I don't know if you know this, when I started my Instagram, it was originally Writer's Soundtrack.
Yes, I do know this. Know this. Yeah.
So I started my Instagram before I published anything, because everybody, like different writer friends that I was kind of meeting through like, you know, critique groups were saying, well, you have to have a social media presence to get published. So this is before I even published. I was like, well, what am I going to post about if I don't have a book yet? Or like nobody knows who I am. So I decided to start posting about just how music connects to certain books, and I've seen a couple bookstagrammers like link this is the song that I put with this book.
I do that sometimes.
Yeah.
It's so fun. But I know that's how you got
it with like John Mayer songs.
Yeah, I did it with John Mayer. I did it with I did it with Taylor. I did it with like Harry. I did it with Ed Sheeran. Like I do it from time to time. I haven't done it in a while. I should get back to it. But yeah, it's fun.
I'll help you. We'll do it together.
Oh, I love that, Ben.
But so I even started my Instagram just based on pairing music with books. And then once I had a book published, I switched the name. But
it's so fun. Yeah. So let's get into Would You Rather. Before we start, tell everybody who doesn't know the little elevator pitch, which I know may be an interesting exercise for you because this may be the first time we've like spoken about this book on an interview, but tell everybody who doesn't know.
I should have been ready for that.
Oh, sorry. I should have given you that talking point.
I don't know why it's so hard for authors to give just like a quick pitch of a book.
You don't understand. And like, I'm sure you know, because you listen and watch my podcast, like every author's like, everyone's like, oh, like shoot.
Why? I love listening to the Christina Lauren one that I forget which one punted the other. She was like, you take this. Yeah.
And then after, I think it was like Christina did it so that Lauren didn't have to, I think is what it was. And then she was like, it's always convenient. Like I'm always the one doing the synopsis.
I need to buddy write so that I can punt this to somebody.
Seriously.
So this book, it's easy to start with the tropes. So I feel like this is a modern best friends to lovers marriage of convenience, which I'll be really honest, I do really love reading historical romance also, as well as contemporary. And I love the marriage of convenience trope. And that's so not easy to do, but it's so much more common in historical because there was kind of reasons that, people needed to get married for convenience in kind of that time frame. But I love the trope so much that I was like, I really want to make a contemporary marriage of convenience book. And obviously I work in healthcare. So that was a way that I could kind of make this happen. So basically, Mia and Noah have been best friends for years. They grew up living next to each other. And really, and this isn't a spoiler for very long at all, but they have both kind of been into the other. But that whole growing up as best friends, that's a really kind of risky thing to maybe, tell the other person or risk if you kind of cross that line. And so neither of them have really ever spoken to that or said anything. And so the book starts when they are in their late 20s, and they've been friends this whole time. But Mia has a chronic kidney condition that requires this expensive kind of frequent medication that she needs. And she works with Mia or with Noah's dad's company and has really great health insurance plan there. And she has this chance to go back to school to finish her degree she never finished because of her illness. And she hesitates because she doesn't want to quit her job and not have the health insurance she so desperately needs. And sweet, sweet best friend Noah, who is just this sexy tattooed cinnamon roll that just loves her so fiercely, says, well, why don't we get married? We work at the same place. You could keep the same insurance. Everything would be the exact same, married in name only, so that you can keep your insurance, but quit your job and go back to school. And doesn't take too long to convince her to do that. And so, but then they don't want the company to kind of
find out,
exactly. So they want to make it look real. So they move in together and, then there are feelings.
It's so good. Okay. So I have so many things that I need to talk to you about this book. But before that, you were saying before how like Mia and Noah were just like in your head for so long. The idea was there for so long. Like, what was it like to finally put pen to paper and outline this story? Like, tell me about that process of getting them out of your head and onto the page.
That time frame for me. So when I've been thinking about a book and when I actually start it, I'm a pretty quick drafter because of this reason. So I will, if I have something festering and I have pretty much the whole, like, it's like I have the feelings of the whole book in my head, but each little scene doesn't exist until I start writing it and the characters start actually doing things and telling me their story. It almost becomes like a urgency that I just need to get it out because it's just there and it's been sitting there. And once I kind of turn the faucet on, all the stuff is just like rushing to get out. And part of me, not only do I just think about it all day and just want to keep writing, but part of me always is a little bit fearful. Like, if I don't get it all out soon, what if I lose this inspiration? What if I lose, how great this is feeling, and really just how many great ideas are coming at me and how the characters are talking to me? What if they all of a sudden go silent?
Right.
And so I really draft very quickly when I start it. It just kind of starts like pouring out of me. I'm almost desperate to get it out. So in those kind of like, it usually takes me maybe 2 to 3 months to draft a full length novel. I just, in every spare moment, I just want to get it out because it's all there.
Right.
I'm feeling inspired. And then I'm afraid maybe that if I wait for too long, they'll stop talking.
Right. So, but this concept of this book is so unique in the sense that their marriage of convenience is based on the fact that she needs that healthcare in order to like basically pursue her dream. So how did that idea like even come to you? Because I know that from your other books, you've drawn on inspiration from like your work life and people you've met and experiences that other people have had or you've had. So what's the inspo behind this one in particular?
Well, and I know it'd be interesting to hear what it seems like for you being in Canada in a place with a different healthcare system and like insurance system. But, the health system that I work for here is the one in my large city in Oklahoma City. It's the one that treats uninsured and underinsured patients. So a lot of big hospital systems, if they're for profit, they can't accept or care for patients that don't have insurance or have poor insurance coverage. But my health system does. So I've experienced, and I've literally seen patients unable to afford or get chemotherapy because of their financial state. So it is. I mean, I see people that they can't get a blood thinner while they have a PE or like a pulmonary embolism. I've seen, or we can't get their right nausea med because insurance is restrictive, or they don't have insurance and it's that expensive. So I think it just really, I've seen the desperation of needing things, but being limited by kind of the payer insurance system, cost of medications that we have in the United States.
It's so terrible. And it's I feel like most romance books are just like boy meets girl, like they follow a very vanilla formula. And even though your books are such romance books and they're still somehow freaking closed door, there is nothing like vanilla or like light about these books. Like every single book of yours that I've read, and like I know that I will continue to read, like are so sexy and so emo, which is such a testament to how you write, considering like they are closed door romances, which is insane. So can you like just tell everybody how you write such intimacy without being at all graphic? Like it's not normal. Like every scene fades to black and it doesn't even matter.
Well, I don't know that I've really ever even said this like publicly. So if I can say that, I think the reason I started writing closed door, and so I'm going to say that I don't know that I will always write closed door. What I will say is the reason I started is I did grow up in a very conservative household and a conservative kind of religious type household. And my personal feelings on that have changed as I've gotten older, but I still struggle a little bit with some, I don't know that religious guilt is the right word, but it's just kind of a comfort level with that element for what I write. I read all heat levels. I love it. I love reading every end of the spectrum. And I don't think there's any shame in anything. It's just for me personally, I kind of wanted to see, is it possible to write a book like that I could kind of have just the high level of chemistry and tension and just really portray the full depth of the emotion that goes in to the intimacy in a relationship. I almost told myself I'm going to go as far as I need to go when I'm writing to make sure everybody feels that connection between them. And I'll go as far as I need to. But for me, and people may disagree, I've seen both in reviews, to be honest. Some people have said, oh my gosh, I didn't even miss the open door. And some people are like, oh, you gave me blue balls.
I'm dying.
I feel like, I don't know, my goal is always just feeling that connection between them is the most important piece to me. And I feel like somehow I'm able to portray that without getting super detailed.
Yes.
But I will say there's one that is not published that I've written that wasn't the case. I needed to kind of go further than I have in any of my previous books. And I will probably leave it in that way because it was right for that scene and that couple. So
right.
I think part of it is my own kind of trying to let go of some prior, like baggage that I have. So I appreciate y'all going along with the ride with me, working through that.
I'm dying, but it's insane because I mean, obviously I read so many of these books. I'm like, it's either closed door, it's open door. And like, I don't really have a preference. I like you will literally read anything on the spectrum, but nobody writes closed door romances the way you do. Like somehow they still feel open door when they're not.
Well, thanks. I mean,
you're welcome.
It was really like, I was like, I'm going to see if I can do this. I intentionally wanted to write books from the beginning that were still closed door, but extremely high chemistry and extremely high sexual tension. That was kind of my goal. So it's good to know. Maybe I achieved it.
No. That's like your specialty. That's like that's totally your brand. Exactly. But Mia and Noah are like the best couple in the entire world. And I literally, I just reread the book again and I just actually like want to throw up and cry and have butterflies in my stomach. The way you write like certain one-liners from all of these books, but especially in this book, it's like, it makes me like want to throw up because like nobody in real life talks like that. Like if I could find somebody that would say things like that to me, like no knocking on my boyfriend, but like, it's just like, it's such a fantasy, So like, how do these like lines come to your brain? Like, what are you reading and watching that are giving you inspo? Or like, is your real life, like, is your husband this like such a romantic, like,
no. No. It's funny. I actually remember one time we were driving and I was driving and for some reason, I think it was one of these things where I was just thinking about a book and these characters and I had the best line come into my head. And I said, Brandon, text this to me because I couldn't write it down. And so then I totally forgot about it because it was like a road trip. And like the next day I was like, oh, my husband texted me and like I pulled it up and it was this so sweet thing. And then I was like,
it's from my brain
for my book.
That's amazing.
Would that have come through otherwise? No, I don't even know because when I write, I'm that person that will sit down. I kind of like read a little bit of the scene where I stopped. And then I just kind of go like the character, like it feels so weird and out of my control that the characters just do it. So
I know that's what you've said to me before. It's crazy. Yeah. So in this book, what was without giving too many spoilers if possible, what was your like favorite scene to write?
So probably, oh gosh.
I have two, I think.
I'm going to have to go with two.
Me too. I have two. I wonder if they're the same two. Okay, you go first.
Okay. One is their wedding. So their courthouse. Okay. When they kiss for the first time because and it was, I don't know. It's just that
magic,
especially the way he it's like one of his fantasies coming true, but he knows he needs to kind of keep it like, this is not real. This is just a cool thing we have to do. But deep inside, he's like, oh my gosh, I'm about to kiss the woman I've loved.
I can't. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So that one, okay. Shoot. Now I have three because now, in the treehouse.
Yeah, that's my other one.
Okay. Well, and that one just came to me. So they later need to, like, they are in front of a bunch of his family kind of trying to pretend like they're madly in love and they kind of, randomly decided to get married and trying to keep it.
Oh, actually, I have three too. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So I feel like it's all the things where they like are getting physical to convince other people. Those are all
or like a turning point of sorts.
Yes. And they kind of kiss each other in front of their family and it's kind of awkward. And so then they both kind of are like, oh my gosh, that's awkward. And they kind of go off and they find themselves in Noah's old treehouse in his backyard. And they're like, that was really not great. We need to make sure that we can be real in the future. So, we need to practice kissing real quick. So we need to to get the awkwardness out of the way.
Yeah.
And that scene is, I have to tell you though, that scene, Denise Williams, she's my critique, like one of my critique partners, and she really helped me shape that scene. So a couple of the lines in that scene are courtesy of Denise Williams.
Love that. I love her.
That's why that scene is hot too.
Dying.
And then the other one, I guess, that I had is they go camping with some friends and they have to pretend that they're, getting busy one night to kind of also help convince. And that one is funny and kind of intense at the same time.
Yeah. I have to say, you also are just, the way you write makes me die of laughter. And like, I don't know if it's because, and I actually don't think it is, because I was laughing in Perfect Distraction before I knew you. But now that like I know you, when I read your books and like just your sarcasm kills me, and it just like comes out through the page, and you just make me die of laughter. Like I just laugh. And I think, I don't know if it's because it's 100% a combination. It's a combination of the fact that it's you and I love you and I know you and I know how you think, and the fact that it's just like point blank hilarious, you know?
But it's funny because I don't feel like I'm funny in real life. Like,
are you kidding me? You kill me.
Well, but I feel like I'm not in the moment. I'm one of those people that I'm like, damn, if I'd said that like earlier, that would have been hysterical.
Okay, fine.
I feel like in my day to day, like at work or just with people, I think about it later.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I feel like I'm funnier in the books because I'm able to kind of like sit with it for a minute.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel you. Well, this is one of my favorite books of yours. And not just because it's the most recent one, but also because I have to address this at the end. In the dedication acknowledgements, you gave me a little shout out, which honestly, it's not even little, it's giant. And when you sent me the PDF of this book like months and months ago, you were like, look at the end. And I was like, wait, what's at the end? And now it's just the craziest thing ever. Like, I'm sure you as an author, like seeing your name on a book and the fact that you wrote this is crazy. But for me as a bookstagrammer, to see my name in a book at the end in an acknowledgement is crazy. So like, I can't thank you enough. And I know you're like, oh no, you do so much for me in bookstagrammer.
Well, yes.
But seriously, as somebody that just like creates content and just shares the books that she loves, like to be in a book now, my name in this book with Mia and Noah is just like the biggest like honor. I don't even know, but I'm obsessed and I can't believe that I have it in my hands. And when I opened the package up right away, before I even like looked at the book, I was like, to the end, I like run it everywhere in my house. I'm like, Dad, look, Mom, look, everybody look. I like showed my dog Molly. I'm like, Molly, it's me. I'm in here. But it's the best.
Really, I don't know if y'all, and so like for you, and if any other like bookstagrammers listen to your podcast and not just like, readers or authors, like y'all are so important to an author's livelihood. When you like post something, especially someone like you you're so just delightful and incredible, and you have very organically and naturally grown your following.
Thank you.
But when someone with kind of your reach posts about like my book, I physically see a change in my following and people who pre-order my book and people who have read my book. Like it matters. And especially in this day and age when so many people are putting books out there, which is incredible. I love that we have so much to read, but it really is so hard to try to really get to the readers that are going to connect with maybe a book that I write. And it's really the organic spread of people like you who are saying, I love this book and here's why.
Yeah.
If you love this, you would probably love this book. That's how we find readers. So it's probably the most important part, to be honest. So
well, I'm happy to have helped in any minor way, but I know that this book is just going to take off on legs on its own. I mean, it's so funny. Like I feel like a proud mom of you almost, which is like so funny.
I feel like a nobody who's like, but and I'm seeing some of the early reviews, and I'm one of those awful authors who reads my reviews.
I know you do.
I can't help it. I can't.
I know you do.
I'm too controlling and like I'm type A. I just have to know.
I hate that you do that too, but
I have to. But I have gotten to a point where I'm like, nah, like, bad ones, everybody's different. Because you and I, like there's a book that you're obsessed with, and I'm not but it's like not for me. And so it really helped me see as a reader, like,
well, everyone has different tastes.
Yeah. But seeing people like say nice things about it, it never ceases to
amazing.
Oh my gosh.
I know. And when I see people now posting about you, I'm like, I knew her first.
We're besties. I text her when I get meds and
I send her my prescriptions and I say, did my pharmacist fuck up? Is this the right dose? It's just another perk of being your friend. No, but like, I love that now I see so many people like posting about your books and like loving them. And I just get to comment like, I told you. I told you.
See?
I love it. I feel like such a proud mom. So now tell everybody, I mean, I know because I get the inside scoop, but like, what are you working on next? Tell everybody what's going on because you're busy.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So Claire and Graham are two friends in this book that when you read Would You Rather, because I know you're all going to, because Lianna is just great and she, but they are the same as the previous kind of friends that I was talking about, that they would not leave me alone. So they have a story. It's done. We're working on edits with that. That will come out 2023. And then one that I'm working on that I'm super excited about is actually one of my neighbors. She works for the medical examiner's office.
Okay.
She's a chemist who does like the toxicology on if somebody dies and they're trying to figure out why they died, like she's not the autopsy, but she does all the lab stuff. Like, oh, do they have what's in their bloodstream?
Like why do you like associate with the coolest people? Like everybody in your life has insane jobs.
Listen, I tell everybody that that's her job. Whenever I'm with her, I'm like, she works at the ME's office. She's yeah. So I was like, I want to write a romance about a woman who does that job.
Oh my God.
So that's what I'm working on now is an opposites attract between a woman who is a chemist at the ME's office and this just like very unassuming, sweet little like country boy. Like they're like total opposites. Yeah.
You were just the best with the tropes also is what I've come to realize. It's not like you like pick one trope and stick with it. Like you just dabble in all of the tropes and you do them all so well. It's because you're a romance reader. That's why.
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's pretty much, it's virtually all I read. Yeah.
Me too. That's all. I mean, I try to do a thriller here and there, but it never works out well for me. I'm always like, well, there wasn't enough romance.
On your Andy J. Christopher one I just listened to, you guys were saying that you would be totally fine if for the rest of your life, all you could read was romance. Hard same.
Yeah, hard same. Before I let you go, because I could talk to you for 60 billion years, can you tell everybody who you dream casted for this book? Because for those of you that don't follow Allison, you need to, because when she does like her mood board, sometimes she puts up like inspo pics and it's just like worth it to know who the author, sees in their head as these characters. And I know some authors like don't see people, but like you do. So please tell me who your Mia and your Noah are, because I know who they are. And then it got ruined for me because I had to see them how you saw them.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So some people like this, some people don't, because they don't like it to be ruined. But so for Noah, Sam Hugan, who, for those who don't know the real name, he's Red Jamie from Outlander. Yeah. So Noah is a redhead, which is a big deal. And shout out to, again, I'm just calling out Denise Williams again. She has like a weird obsession with redheads.
Does she?
Like that. If you have her,
she loves a ginger. Oh my God. I'm gonna ask her about this.
The whole thing.
I love that.
Hugan. And then for Mia, not everybody may be familiar with Lana Del Rey, the musician, the singer. So she just, I don't know. I will sit there. So after I make the playlist, I will sit there and just like sift through like Pinterest or like pop culture things and just kind of try to search someone. And it's almost like I just flip through and I'm like, no, that's not her. That's not her. Like, I don't even really know what I have in my head.
Yeah.
But it's just when I see it, I'm like, that's her or that's him. And so, yeah.
So fun. I love that. Yeah. Okay, my friend, we did it. I love having you here. Obviously, you can come any freaking time you want. Like we could do this and not even talk about a book of yours and just like debunk other books that we're reading, because we read a lot of the same stuff.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. Maybe we should do that. Like a bonus episode one time where you come and we just talk about everything else we're loving and reading.
We'll talk about it with our music.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. Love that so much. Yes. Okay. Well, everybody needs to go buy Would You Rather, because by the time this is out, the book is out.
Yay.
So I can't wait for everyone to adore it and be just screaming. And another thing we didn't mention, but I need to reiterate, is that everybody needs to follow you on Instagram, but also on Twitter, because your Twitter is the freaking gold mine of the internet. I have tweet notifications on for you. I'm at work sometimes and it's like, Allison, I'm like, what is she tweeting in the middle of the day? Because not only, first of all, some of them are so important, and like you're just so obviously, I think you're so smart, but like so important, and then the other ones are just absolutely hilarious and like poking fun at romancelandia, and like your content is just A1. So Twitter is where to be to follow you, honestly, on top of Instagram. Yeah, I needed to give that a shout out before we hang out.
Thanks.
My pleasure. Okay. Well, thank you so much again for coming. I love you so much.
I love you.
And I cannot wait to see. My pleasure. And I cannot wait for the next book. Graham and Claire, like I'm ready. My body's ready. Whenever you're ready to send me it, I'm ready to read it.
Okay. You got it.